The next day, Vainqueur held a huge bag while the people gathered near him. Victor asked him if he truly meant to carry the princesses in the bag he was holding. He asked Victor back if he thought it was too small because he had a spare cage too, but Victor told him never mind. Kia told him that she didn't know if she should be okay with that whole kidnapping princesses thing and asked him if he was not going to hurt them, but he just asked her back, "What do you take me for?" and told her that he would release them in the wild after his bragging day. Kia was happy to hear it and told him that as long as she could finally give Mora the beating he deserved, it was good enough for her. The rangers saluted him and told him that they would keep order in his absence. When Victor was about to walk toward his hand, Chocolatine gave Victor a cake for the trip. After that, they flew away to kidnap the princesses and kill Mora, leaving Charlene saying them good luck and telling them that she would pray for their success. But suddenly, Kwasun appeared behind her and told her that he noticed she moved on from her ex, making her mad. Then she walked away while telling Kwasun that she supposed so, and she guessed they would stay friends. Kwasun told her that it was good news and asked her if she was back on the market because he knew a place she would love without them noticing Lucy spying on them from the side. Lucy touched her flower and Odius's reflection appeared. Lucy apologized to her mistress that the insects failed her and told her that Nightsbane had left the town to go after Brandon Mora, but she just told Lucy that it was good, making Lucy confused and asking why it was good. She replied that it would finally get the princeling out of his comfort zone, and Mora had been itching to test the Iron Eagle for a while. Days later, they arrived in Ishphania's capital of Moria. Kia told them to be careful because the invisibility would trick lesser fiends, but neither Mora nor his demons. Victor told them that he wondered why the city was so lightly defended because he expected more guards, but Vainqueur told them that he smelled many demons gathering nearby. Suddenly, Victor noticed something and asked what it was, then they saw an airplane on the ground while demons were completing it. Kia was surprised to see it, and Furibin excitedly shouted that it was finally done because he thought they would never complete it. Vainqueur thought it was a big bird, but Victor knew that they used the Pineapple of Wisdom to create a magical bombardier, but Kia told Victor that it was bigger than the Titanic, and they had to destroy it before it took off. Vainqueur's eyes opened wide, and the system showed that he activated the Virgin Princess radar. Then he immediately flew toward where the princess was, making Victor shocked. Then Kia also ordered her eagle to charge and attack the demon that was in her way while he was telling them that he sensed the princesses. On the other hand, in the stadium, the host welcomed fiendish gentlemen and devil ladies to the demon corrida, and told them that 3 noble ladies would be sacrificed today for the pleasure of hell, including the niece of Gardamagnus King Roland himself, Princess Merveille. The host also told them that a ghastly deed would be done by their esteemed king's guest, the beautiful and poisonous Mel Odius, making the crowd cheer in excitement. Princess Merveille was hopelessly tied up with rope while someone shouted that it was his turn continuously. Then he got down in front of Odius, breaking the ground in the process. He immediately and loudly told the princesses to get into the bag. But Victor told him that they were chained, and Furibin told them that he wasn't invited to the demon corrida, but he was glad they arrived on time. Suddenly, Odius trapped the princesses inside her crystal prison and told them that they had come to delay their plan again. But it ends there. He knew that there was no mistaking the smell, that Odius was the worst kind of fairy, the ancient enemy. Then he told Victor to get behind him because Odius's kind hunts men for their fur. Victor asked him who she was because his perks couldn't read her, and she felt wrong. She introduced herself and told Victor that she was a fairy lord of the Farmers. The host told the viewers that a surprise challenger had stormed in, and it was Vainqueur Nightsbane, Emperor of Murmurin and the Albane Mountains, self-proclaimed great calamity of the age. But he told the host that self-proclaimed did not belong to his title. But the host just introduced the viewers that in the other corner, the demonic superstar, the invincible champion, the undefeated king of Ishphania, and the fabulous Brandon Mora. Then Mora appeared beautifully while biting a red rose in his mouth. Mora told Victor that he knows that expression all too well, and the mere sight of Brandon Mora's perfect body has made him fall for him. He gets that reaction all the time, but Victor says he is actually just very surprised by the Trage de Luce's outfit, while Furibin thinks Mora is still the same brat. Still, Mora told him that there is no need to deny his lustful feelings for his sublime body because he welcomes all admirers, and for beauty has a lover, and his name is Brandon Mora. Vainqueur says that Mora is quite full of himself for an elf grass eater, but Furibin told him that he has no idea. Then Mora told him that he has slighted him for months, slew his minions, and stole his precious pineapple. He then asks him what did he do to deserve it, but he just told Mora that he exists in his world. He was an emperor, so he does as he wants. Mora told him that he was not an emperor, but a lizard. Murmurin is a daughter of Ishphania, and Ishphania has only one king, and it was the king who stands before him. The system warned him that his emperor title is contested by Brandon Mora, and that if he does not assert his rightful authority, his emperor class perks will be nulled. He was confused reading it and wondered what is there to contest. Victor asks Mora what does he intend to do with that plane and how did he build it so fast. Mora replied that he simply needed the pineapple for the finishing touches, and as for what he will do with it, Earthlings have a word for it, and it is something with carpets. Odious reminds Mora that it was carpet bombing, to which Mora agreed and told them that he will carpet bomb the monkey farms of Gardamagni until only rubble remains. Also, he will make a short detour to raise that stinking Murmurin village. Victor fearfully asks why and what is the point. Mora replied that he has many qualities like beautiful, perfect, and generous, but forgiving is not among them. So if they wish to survive with all their ears attached to their body, they shall release Mora's lick servant at once, making Furibin shy. But Vainqueur told Mora that he will not let him release that evil on the world, so Mora told them that his will shall be fulfilled, and told Odious to do him a favor and clear his arena of peons, to which Odious replied as the princeling wishes. Vainqueur jumped to midair and used his dragon fire to attack them, but Mora beautifully and simply avoided it, making the devil ladies scream in love with him. But suddenly, Odious appeared behind Victor, making him panic, knowing she was behind him. Then Odious used her Hell Zone and pushed Victor into the lava on the ground. Seeing it, he panicked and shoutingly said that he was not clearing a dungeon again and ordered them to bring Victor back at once. When Mora was going to tell him that only a true winner makes demands, something exploded outside the stadium. She attacked the plane, making the demon shout that the Iron Eagle was being destroyed, and the enemy has brought reinforcements, but Odious just told Mora that it was not for long. Vainqueur told Mora that he will show him his place as a grass eater and told Odious that her feeble fairy magic can do nothing to him. But Mora just teasingly told him that only the weak rely on magic to win their fight because a true warrior just needs his Mileta and his Espada. Then Mora challenged him one-on-one, champion against a dragon. He furiously growled and told Mora that he, Vainqueur Knightsbane, does not back away from a fight. Then the system showed that he accepted Mora's Demon Corrida challenge, and the audience will empower or weaken the fighters depending on their performance. Mora told him that he swears on his honor as a matador, that day, he, Vainqueur, shall learn the bitter taste of defeat. On the other hand, outside the stadium, the plane attacked Kia from above, and the demon launched toward her too, but she simply avoided the plane attack and sliced the demon in half. She noticed the woman above and had no doubt about it that she was the fairy lord of the farmers. Odious asked her if she was truly a woman who slew Balor and told her that she had grown rusty. But she just told Odious that it was just another one of their sick ploys to destroy Gardamagni. Then she used his solar judgment power to attack the plane. But Odious used her magic to shield it and told her that it matters not how long her mortals delay her inevitable extinction. But they, the farmers, are forever, so centuries mean nothing to them. And one day, the world shall be theirs again. Odious also told her that her efforts were wasted because the Iron Eagle is ready to take flight. But she replied that it doesn't matter because once Vainqueur demolished the Demon King, his army will collapse. But Odious told her that she wouldn't be so sure because the princeling may be an idiot. But there is a reason why her kind never managed to defeat Mora. On the other hand, inside the stadium, a large fire explosion could be seen and heard. He tried to grab Mora, but Mora easily dodged it. Then Mora turned his sword back to him and activated his Estacade power, then hit Vainqueur neck with it. The system showed that instant death was stopped by Dragon Scale. Then he angrily told Mora that it was sad, but Mora teasingly told him that he shall not land a single hit on his perfect skin. Then Mora activated his death or victory power while the system showed him that Brandon Mora's agility, skill, and strength have increased by 4 stages plus 20, but his vitality had dropped by 30. He tried to attack Mora again, but Mora just jumped away to avoid it, making him very angry. He shouted for Mora to come back there. Mora landed on the ice trap and activated his Fina Muleta, but the system showed him that the intelligence check was failed, so his strength had increased by 2 stages plus 10. But he could only use physical attacks against Brandon Mora. Mora attacked him using Spell Purge over and over, making him shout in pain. He looked at Mora with anger, but Mora told him that it was no magic trick. Then Mora raised his sword in the air and activated his air blade. Then Mora swung it down, telling him that it was all his. The system showed him that the love of his fans made Brandon Mora strong, so Mora's blade would now do Dragon Slayer damage. Then Mora attacked him with his air blade over and over, making him mad and tell Mora to get off his perfect face. He noticed that he couldn't follow that grasshopper's movements or use his flames, so all he could think of was charging at that silly cloth, and he planned to do it again. Then he attacked Mora, but Mora avoided it, so he crashed into the wall instead. While he was down on the ground, Mora teasingly told him that he was no emperor but a bull because he had all strength and no skill. He shouted, trying to turn invisible, but noticed that it was broken, making him ask Mora if he broke it. Mora replied that he should have expected that from a weak dragon like him and told him that while they, the savage beasts, ate cows in their caves, they, the elves, ruled the greatest empire in the world. He turned around slowly, telling Mora that they made the world first and he had more power as an egg than his whole inbred species. But Mora told him that he was a rough beast, and while he was in diapers, he was strangling manling monkeys with just his hand. While Mora's eye was filled with sand and couldn't open, he took the chance and ate Mora whole, making the viewers look in fear at the scene. Then he just swallowed him, making the viewers disagree with him. But he told them that he didn't care and that he won. But all at once, he felt something moving inside him, then he coughed, and Mora came out of him whole. Then the system showed him that he had lost a quarter of his health, making him wonder if it was pain that he could feel. Mora changed to his original appearance and told him that he had done it because he made him mad enough to show his true demon matador form. Then Mora used his all-or-nothing power, making the crowd's electric enthusiasm raise all of Brandon Mora's stats by 1 stage plus 5, but he figured out that he still couldn't use his breath. Mora immediately flew toward him and slashed his body twice using a sword. The system showed him that it was massive damage and he had lost half of his HP. He looked at his body and wondered if it was his blood and if he could bleed. Mora confidently told him that he was no emperor, thou art a beast, fit only to have his horns cut, and he ruled supreme, making the crowd cheer for Mora. He was injured on the ground while the system warned him that he failed to properly defend his emperor title by steamrolling his challenger, and all of the emperor class perks are ineffective until he manages to slay Brandon Mora or cow him into submission. Then Mora told him that he would slaughter all his fans after he was done. Then he would claim all his treasures as his own. But Vainqueur disagreed because he was the beast of legends, the greatest calamity of the age, and dragons don't give up because, in the end, they always win. Then he strongly told Mora that he would not fall for his horde. The system showed that the dragon's arrogance was triggered, so all stat debuffs were removed. His fans became lively and shouted his name while the others shouted Mora's name. The system showed him that his charisma was successful, and by impressing the cruel crowds of Ishvania with his fighting spirit, he earned the Bravo Bull, which means when his health is critical, his strength is greatly raised. Mora jumped backward while teasingly asking him if he was up for more because he would provide. But he was just launching in silence while thinking that if he could not win with his immense strength, then he would use his peerless intelligence, and he knew that there had to be a way to bypass that silly red wing, and it was the only thing preventing him from roasting that grasshopper. Then he figured out that he could only use physical attacks against the moth, so he used his flame, but he could still get the stage ablaze. Mora told him that his flame wouldn't be enough to defeat him while the system showed him that his flames were inflicting heavy holy damage on Brandon Mora. He burned Mora's fans while telling Mora that he couldn't burn him, but it would give him enough time to destroy the source of his power, which was his fans. The system showed him that he interrupted the demon corrida, so all of his stat changes had been cancelled, and by feasting on the spicy thralls of Brandon Mora, he recovered some HP. Mora immediately used his sandstorm power and made a huge tornado, making the viewers panic and run away for their lives. Mora angrily asked him what kind of beast attacks an audience of loving demon supporters, and he proudly replied that it was the dragon kind. Then told Mora that he had no more minions to support him, but Mora told him that he just only delayed his inevitable defeat, and cheering fans or not, he would triumph. Mora readied his sword to attack him again, but suddenly, the ground they were standing on exploded, making them fly away in different directions. He was surprised to see Victor coming out of it and asked him what he had missed. Before it, he was thrown inside hell and remembers that Charlene told him he was already in hell when he first introduced Vainqueur into her life. And as it turned out, he did end up there, right on the devil's doorstep. Suddenly, a spear slashed in front of him, making him shocked. A lady with 2 guards asks him if he was the new sacrifice, but notices that he was not a virgin maiden. He replied that he had not been mistaken for one while shyly thinking that it was bad. The system showed him that the woman is Archdevil Isabel Mora, chief demonic executive of Mora Hell Corporated. She was strong against darkness, drain, mind, insta-death, all ailments, frost, lightning, wind, and poison, but weak against light, fire, demon slayer, and bug slayer. Also, she is one of Hell's corporate overlords who secretly regrets sacrificing her golden years for her career. Isabel told him that he smelled of dragon and asked him if it was Furibin's soul she saw trapped in his side. Furibin apologized to her because he failed to break the Hellgate seal on schedule, but she replied that it was alright because the army behind it isn't moving anywhere, so he'll still get to keep his free dental healthcare. Victor still has Kia's teleporting stone, since Vainqueur is too lazy to carry it himself, but he wonders if it would work in Hell, so he realizes that he has got to buy more time to figure something out. Then he happily asked Isabel if she was Brandon Mora's mother. She happily asked him if he knew her Branino, how he was, and if he conquered Gardamagni yet. Victor Victor told her to wait and asked if Mora didn't inform her. She sadly replied no and told him that Mora never visits and only calls when he wants something, like if he wants a demon pony or needs more infernal power. Victor told her that parenting is a thankless job, to which she agreed, and told him that something she regretted was eating Mora's father. Then she asked him how did he end up there. He introduced himself and told Isabel that Odious sent him there with a spell. She told him that she told Mora not to listen to that Odious because nothing good can come out of dealing with fairies, and what they demon do for business, they do for pleasure. Victor told her that he would be thankful if she could send him back to Outramond. But she told him that her ungrateful son will wait and she wanted him to tell her everything Mora has been up to. When he was about to reply he will with pleasure, she told him that after it, he will be killed, making him stunned in fear and asking what she means. Isabel replied that her Mora has been complaining about a certain Vainqueur and him for a while, so family first. But she told him not to worry because she doesn't torture polite young men. Furibin happily told them that he'll have a hell of a time watching it while he was in fear. Suddenly, a powerful smoke appeared in the center of them, and someone shouted to Isabel to stop because it was a violation of their rights. Malphai appeared with the other demon businessmen, making Victor ask if he was Malphai, but Malphai cleared that it was Vice President Malfacent now, and the shareholders loved the new Murmurin project so much that they promoted him after Chocolatine, his predecessor, but he still could call him Malphai. The other businessmen walked closer to her, making her ask what the heaven they were doing there. One of the businessmen told her that Victor Dalton there is protected by their Faustian Associate Protection Program, and Victor was a true mortal partner of Infercorp and Murmurin. Then the other continued by saying any violence against their client would be an act of corporate warfare, and for the sake of their mutual market shares, they asked that she abandon all pursuits against Mr. Vicotter, or else they'll send the bailiffs. She snatched the paper while saying that Murmurin is part of her market, but they teasingly told her that it was before, but it's theirs now. Malphai told Victor that now he understands the good things of having a friend in low places. He expects Vainqueur to say yes to their new Whispering Brothel project. Victor happily agreed, but said if he can send him back to Outramond and ask if an act of business fighting was really a thing. Malphai told him not to worry because they'll make sure he gets away with everything. Then they happily walked away, leaving Isabel angry. Then he told Vainqueur that it was how he got away from hell with a golden parachute, safe and sound. Vainqueur proudly said that he expected that from his chief of staff and he trained him well. But Mora told them that it does not matter because he will cut off their heads and send them to hell. Victor told Mora that he almost didn't know him for a second and said his mother sent her love. Mora angrily asked what he had done to his mother, but Victor asked Mora what he had done to his mother. He said she was worried about him and he only calls her for help, so he should feel shame. Furibin told Victor that Mora's young time never ended. But Mora told Victor that he asked his mother for a party game and she gave it, making Victor ask what that meant. Mora flew toward him to attack, making Vainqueur shout Victor's name in fear. Then a loud noise was heard. Mora stabbed Victor in the chest, not seeing Vainqueur behind him. He told Victor that there is no bigger joy than dying by Brandon's hand, but was confused to see Victor didn't die. Suddenly, Vainqueur hit him to the ground hard, making him hurt. Then he told Vainqueur that looking back, it might have been a mistake. But Vainqueur hit him into a wall while saying not to touch his horde. A message showed Vainqueur that by beating the big demon lord, he went up a level in Gladiator and in Dragon Kaiser. He also got new skills and things that make him strong in hand-to-hand fighting. He also got the power to call his trusty chief of staff Victor to his side, but was warned that he has reached the top level, so he can't go higher until he uses a special crest. But he can still get special perks through doing great deeds. Mora was thrown into a village tower and fell to the ground. But even though Mora was very hurt, he told Vainqueur that it was not over, not at all. On the other hand, Victor told Vainqueur that he needed healing. But Vainqueur said they couldn't rest yet because he hadn't got back his emperor powers. So the moth still lived. Victor agreed because he thought it wouldn't be so easy. Thankfully, he saw Kia with her eagle coming. When she landed, she told them to quickly grab the princesses because they needed to use a special stone and go away fast. But Vainqueur said no, not without the moth's head. Kia healed Victor while he asked if she had destroyed the plane. She said no, she didn't. Then, a huge plane came toward them and Odious told Vainqueur that she was tired of him. She told her people in the plane to kill them all. The plane put a target on a confused Vainqueur and Odious said it meant death. Then the plane shot at Vainqueur, making him scream in pain. But thankfully, Kia jumped in time for them to dodge it. They were slammed into hard crystal. Then Vainqueur told Victor that he felt sick while a message said he was in very bad health. Odious asked how he lived through a weapon made for castles, but he said he was too strong. She said it didn't matter and told her people to bomb the dragon again. Kia yelled at Victor to use the stone, and he quickly called them back to the treasure. The bombs were close to hitting Vainqueur again, but they were moved to the treasure in time. Victor was happy it worked, and Kia said that it was close, but Vainqueur said he was not feeling well. Victor said they almost died, but Vainqueur said that death is a problem only for animals like them, not dragons. He wondered if he could die too, but thought it was still not possible. Then a message said he figured out that dragons can die, so he got smarter. He realized that his whole way of life was built on a lie. Meanwhile, in the stadium, Mora can't believe that his beautiful stadium was destroyed. But Odious told him that he desired a test of the weapon, and it was delivered. Mora angrily asked her if it did and told her that his stadium was now a crater, and the dragon escaped anyway. But Odious told him that even Vainqueur was no match for the Iron Eagle's power. She asked him, if Vainqueur couldn't destroy it, what hopes does Garda-Magni have? He smiled and replied that it was true, then asked how long it would take to repair the ship. His demon replied that a week at most because the paladin only inflicted minor damage. Mora ordered his men to send messages to all of the Ishvanian legions, and once his Iron Eagle is repaired he will lead his army to invade Garda-Magni. The man agreed and asked how many soldiers they would gather for the assault. He happily replied, all of them. Meanwhile, in Victor's mansion, he was lying on the bed thinking that it didn't go well because they almost died. Even Vainqueur and Mora was going to attack them soon, so they had to prepare. Furibin told him that he could no longer gain levels and his old master possessed the strongest weapon in the world, so no one could help him, but he told Furibin that he could help, making Furibin confused and ask him what he meant. He replied that Furibin was an archmage, so surely he had spells he could teach him, but Furibin asked him why he would teach him anything. He happily shook his scythe while asking Furibin to confirm if he didn't have Stockholm Syndrome or something because they had been together for weeks, but Furibin replied, never. He silently and smilingly looked at Furibin, then shook his scythe continuously, making Furibin tell him to stop shaking him, and he would give him pointers. He told Furibin that he was much obliged, but Furibin told him that he hated him so much. Suddenly, a bright light appeared, making him confused, and he asked what it was. Then a lady called him Mr. Dalton and introduced herself as the Angel Meal, and she had come to save his soul. He fearfully asked her if he was going to die again, and Meal replied, no, but you almost did. Then she explained to him that each year, thousands of neutral-aligned mortal souls end up in hell by accident, so he might not be so lucky next time. He asked her if she was saying he would go to hell when he died, and she replied that he might. But it's not too late to save his soul, and all he needed to avoid was eternal damnation. He wondered if Malphite could get him a cushy job downstairs, but then Meal told him that all he had to do was buy the right karma insurance and explained to him that by insuring his karma and giving them some of his SP every month, he could avoid eternal torment when he died. He was stunned hearing it while Meal brightly smiled at him. He stressfully tried to compose himself, but Meal told him to consider signing up for their Hellfire protection plan, or else he would be tortured forever when he died, and they would use the SP he spent on that plan to save orphans and heal the sick, so if he refused their insurance, he was committing a sin. He asked her if she was trying to guilt trip him when someone knocked on his door, then Kia told him that she talked with Charlene and sent a message to her partner Nostradame in Garda-Magni, so they should send reinforcements to help them. But then Kia noticed an angel and asked if she was Meal. Meal remembered her and told her that she didn't know she lived there, making him ask them if they knew each other. Kia replied that Meal was the intern of her karma insurance counselor. Then she asked Meal how things were going upstairs. Meal happily replied that she finally graduated from the redemption chasing department, and Victor would be her first client. Kai told him not to worry because they were pushy, but they meant well. Meal gave him a redemption for Dummy's book while telling him that in his case, she would suggest starting with the Halo insurance, and he replied that he guessed he could take a look at the plans because he couldn't dodge death forever. Suddenly, he heard Vainqueur calling him, then a light came out of his body, making the two girls shocked, and he vanished, making them panic. Then he was transported to the Horde upside down. Vainqueur told him that he could not break those crystals no matter how hard he punched them, and ordered him to find a way to free his princesses. But Victor just asked him how did he teleport him there. He replied that he summoned him, calling Minion with his new Summon Herald perk, and now he could fulfill all of his requests without wasting time. He was speechless, shocked to hear it, and asked himself why him, while Vainqueur told him that after much thinking, he had come to accept that death is not a birth defect. Victor explained to him that death comes to all of them, except maybe the gods, but Vainqueur would need to reach level 99 to become one. He ordered Victor that he would find 2 crests so that they might blow up that giant bird, eat that grasshopper, become gods, and never die. Victor asked why he needed to find 2 crests, and he replied that it was for the 2 of them. Then he reminded Victor that he told him to become immortal before, so he should not make him repeat himself. Victor fearfully thanked him for his concern, but Victor could tell that facing Vainqueur's mortality shook him to the core. Still, he'll look into insurance, just in case, and maybe Vainqueur would benefit from insurance too, but Victor hoped Vainqueur would get some rest. Many centuries ago, in Midgardian hinterlands, the pink dragon told her husband that the eggs were hatching, and the Marin dragon replied that he wondered which one would hatch first. Then Vainqueur happily came out and told his parents to look at him because he was beautiful, and when he grew up, he would be richer than them. His father told his mother to look at how big their eldest was and thought that he was a born winner. Then his mother decided to call him Vainqueur. Since the moment he was born, he has never failed at anything. He learned to fly on his first try, and he could breathe fire before any of his siblings. His father told him that upon realizing that her children were too good to work, the Elder Worm created the first minions, making him ask his father if it meant non-dragons existed to serve them. His father replied, of course, and told him to look at how happy they were to spoil them, but the truth was that people were scared to death because of them. His father told him that if he didn't eat his cow, Dragon Bainwatan would come to eat him, but he reminded his mother that she said true dragons never die. His mother replied that it was true, but he wouldn't become immortal until he ate his dinner, and true dragons could only die while young, or if they hibernated, but even the farmers couldn't defeat them at their best. His siblings asked their parents what about dragon slayers and if they were real. Their father replied that he said true dragons, and sometimes one of them was born with the birth defect called mortality and carried it even into adulthood. But their mother told them that all of them would grow into true dragons, to which Vainqueur proudly shouted that he was fire, and he was deaf. His parents believed in rigorous education, so they sent him to study alongside his cousin Genialisime under the famed princess hunter, Grandrake. Grandrake told them that elven princesses are among the rarest found in the wild, and they could see her thriving in her natural girl posse social hierarchy. His cousin told Grandrake that the princess was so beautiful, and though he faced envy and competition, his cousin told him that he saw her first, but he told Icefang to go back to his igloo. He grew into an experienced princess hunter himself. In time, all paid him homage as the strongest dragon of his generation, the great calamity of that age. He opened his eyes, felt his head hurt, and coughed continuously. Then he vomited a lot of armor and weapons, making him feel sick. At 11:98 a.m., a century before Victor Dalton's ill-attempted robbery, in Kolignenberg, the biggest city of the Midgard Republic, his surrounding was on fire while he was wondering what did he do last night. A moment later, in Midgardian hinterlands, Vainqueur's old lair, the goblin told his friend that they should run away because Vainqueur ate half of them last month when he ran out of cows. But his friend told him that if they try to run, Vainqueur will eat all of them. One of them suggested to the other that they should wait for the long winter when Vainqueur hibernates, and then they run without looking back. Suddenly, Vainqueur landed in his lair, making the goblins thrown away and shouting in panic. Then he told his minions to stop slacking and asked if his hoard was safe, but one of the goblins just asked him why he was back and what was the matter. He replied that it was safe and that he did not remember what he did last night, so he was worried, but the goblin was glad that Vainqueur didn't hear them. Then he told his minions to be good minions and tell him what they remember. One of the goblins fearfully replied that he swore he took the big bag and left yesterday. He asked the goblin if he meant the grocery bag, and the goblin replied yes, then reminded him that he was hungry and would do his groceries. Also, he would eat them if they couldn't find cows. He told them that since they were still alive, he must have found what he was looking for, but he knew that it shouldn't take a whole day. Then he flew again and told his minions that he would go look for answers and eat them another time. One of the goblins said good luck to him, but the other one told his friend to tell other goblins to pack their bags and be ready to flee at a moment's notice. A moment later, he arrived at his favorite grocery place, but he sensed something vile. He got down and smelled the stinky fairy's stench, making him remember that the day before, he was happily grabbing a cow while singing, and when he was about to eat the cow, someone told him that he had been looking for him. Then the person introduced himself as Mag Mel of the Farmers, patriarch of the Mel clan, father of plagues and monsters. He introduced himself as Vainqueur Knightsbane and told Mag that he could do everything he did, but much better, and asked if he had come to die by his hand. But Mag replied that others would die, and all the new folk who polluted their lands would die, and such was the word of High Balor, the mightiest of their kind. He teasingly asked Mag if he meant the overmighty Dullahan and told him that the strongest of them, fairies, were no match for the weakest of dragon kind. But Mag told him that they killed many dragons in the dark days. He clarified that the dragons they killed suffered from birth defects, so it didn't count, but Mag told him that he was the greatest of dragon kind, the great calamity of that age, or so he pretended. But he told Mag that he did not pretend because he really was the great calamity of that age. Hearing it, Mag told him that if so, he should fight by his king's side and help them wipe the mortals from that world. Also, there would be a great reward for joining in that carnage, and soon. They would wage a great war, they would spill the blood of mortals and rule out Ramond again like in the old days. But he told Mag that he had always ruled and he would still do so, and it was his kind who had grown weak enough to be defeated by manlings. Mag explained to him that the mortals were vermin and the magic they used was a disease, so they had to die for that world to be purified. He asked Mag why he would exterminate his favorite food, and if he killed all the puny races, where would he find coins and princesses? Then he seriously asked Mag if he had thought of the logistics and ordered Mag to be gone before he devoured him because Vainqueur Nightsbane was no one's pet. Mag proudly told him that on the day of the solstice, he should mark his words, that in time, the mortals would come for him and his kind too. He was shocked to hear it and flew immediately, thinking that the solstice was that day, so he should quickly find a princess because he had no time, leaving Mag shocked and speechless. Meanwhile, in the peaceful castle, the princess was peacefully and enjoyingly listening to the elf musician who was making music for her while the other nobles were chattering. The knight heard something coming, then suddenly, he broke the ceiling and appeared, making the people in the castle shocked, together with the princess. He told the princess that she would do, but the knight told him that at long last they met again. But he called the knight elfling and told him that he was too busy today to help him commit suicide because he had to be in the region of the Great Lakes before sundown, so he ordered the knight to fall on his sword on his own. But the knight told him that he would not ignore him because he was Orsted from Kolignenberg and reminded him that he burned his city 15 years ago. But he didn't remember it. Orsted asked him if he did not remember it, but he asked Orsted back how he expected him to remember every place he visited for groceries and told him that after a time, they all started blurring together. Orsted was pissed, hearing that he called his place grocery and reminded him that it was in the west, near the sea, and there was a white chalk cliff nearby. Because of it, he remembered it and asked Orsted to confirm if it was the city with the big clock. But Orsted told him that they didn't have a clock tower because their water clock was destroyed 50 years ago to put out a fire caused by a dragon. Then Orsted figured it out and asked him if he burned their city twice, but he just asked Orsted if he thought he overturned their villages because he liked it, and told Orsted that it would be much easier if they left their cattle and princesses on display for him to take, but they, manlings, only thought of themselves. Orsted called him a monster and said that he would strike him with his holy sword. Then Orsted attacked his head using Leon's edge power, but Orsted was stunned and shocked when he saw his sword break in half. He furiously opened his mouth to eat Orsted, who couldn't believe what he was seeing. Because of this, he figured out where the armor he vomited came from and wondered if he was visiting his family. But he was confused why he wanted a princess to brag about. Then he noticed his cousin Genie Alisime with Blight Swamp on the shore. He flew toward him, making Genie Alisime ask if he was sober while hugging Blight Swamp. But he just asked his cousin why he bred with Blight Swamp when she lives in a marsh. Genie Alisime told him that he hurt her feelings, so he gave her a wing to cry on. Then one thing led to another. He told Genie Alisime that he didn't remember anything, but his cousin just laughingly said that it didn't surprise him because he was in terrible shape yesterday. He also told him that Jolie was super worried for him, but he asked his cousin who was Jolie. Then he remembered that the solstice was Jolie's first bragging day. Jolie happily told him that he came, and he asked Jolie how he could miss her sweet niece's first bragging day. Then he told Jolie that he brought her a present. Jolie asked if it was a minion because Grognon brought her first minion too, and it was a catkin kitten. But he told Jolie that it was something even better, and it was a princess that made a whining sound when she squeezed her. Jolie excitedly shouted that it was her first princess and asked if she could dress her up with ribbons. He told Jolie that she could do anything she wanted. Then Jolie excitedly said that she would feed her at once to the pantry. Jolie jumped down to walk toward the pantry. He told his cousin, long time no see, and Genie Alisime replied that he was so proud that little Jolie gathered a hoard already, and that her mother must be so happy. He proudly told his cousin that victory was in their blood, making Genie Alisime chuckle. He asked if he wanted to help him since he was there because there was a camp of dwarves near his lair, and they kept trying to steal from his hoard. Also, Blight Swamp and he would crash the place after Jolie was done bragging. He asked his cousin why he was already preparing the after-day feast when the bragging day hadn't even begun. Genie Alisime replied that it was a good question, but a better question was if he would follow them. He asked his cousin if he went along, and Genie Alisime replied yes and told him that it started well until he ate one dwarf too many. Then he burned the village, making the villagers run for their lives. He asked his cousin if he became drunk by eating dwarves, and Genie Alisime replied that he ate 3 dwarves, and then he couldn't stop. He also became crazy violent and burned everything. When Blight Swamp and he tried to restrain him, he called Blight Swamp by the W word. He couldn't believe that he called her a wyvern. Then he apologized to Blight Swarm in the name of their elder worm. But his cousin just told him that he had a serious dwarf intolerance. Then he asked Genie Alisime if Jolie had a good bragging day. Fortunately, Genie Alisime replied that Jolie did because she bragged all night long, and he thinks she really liked the princess he caught for her too since she paraded her to everyone. He figured out that it had really happened, so the mystery he was thinking of was solved while Genie Alisime was lovingly looking at Blight Swamp. When he was about to leave, Genie Alisime told him that he thought he and Blight Swamp could be great together. He replied alright, but told Genie Alisime that if they moved into the lair together, he should make it a cave. Genie Alisime said he would do it. A moment later, the goblin Panicky told him that he was back so soon. But he just told them that they were moving south because the food was getting scarcer there, and he would set up a glorious lair in the Albane Mountains, where no thief might threaten his coins. They replied that they would follow him anywhere, but they really had an escape plan for gold coins. Then he moved to the Albane Mountains to prepare for his long nap, unaware of his old minion's treachery. But he proudly knew that he was Vainqueur Knightsbane, the great calamity of the age. And to those who would challenge him, whether they were demons or fairies, he had only one thing to say, and it was to bring it on. Back to the current year in Chocolatine and Croissant House. Chocolatine happily says that it was a good day to bake a cake and she'll make one for her crush, one for her god, and one for her brother because she likes the feeling of blood on her paws. In their kitchen, the black rabbit was skinned on the table, and she was wearing the rabbit's feet while walking toward the table, noticing that she forgot to clean. She was wishing for her ingredients when she saw her brother and asked him if she can ask him a question, to which he replied yes. Then she seriously asks him if he was sure Charlene and Victor are finally over, and Croissant replied yes and thanks the gods that they are because the way is finally clear, making her feel happy too. Then she happily gives her brother Charlene's cake. Croissant thanked her but asked her if she was sure there won't be side effects because the last cake bit him. She reminds him that she told him it was a birthday mimic and none of her desserts killed anyone yet. But Croissant noticed that he made 2 more and knows that one of them is an offering to Isengrim, then asks her what about the other one. She shyly replied that it was for her crush, making her brother ask her when is she going to tell him who it is. But she told him that she won't because he was going to eat him like the last time. But Croissant explained to her that from the taste, she was too good for him and begged her to tell him that it's not a were hyena this time. She replied no and explained that her crush was way cleaner, strong, charming, and handsome. Croissant walks away while telling her that he guesses he'll meet him once she has caught him and says goodbye to her, to which she says goodbye back. A moment later, one of the cupcakes moved on its own side and growled loudly, but she just hit it with the roller and creepily ordered it to shut up and just look tasty, making it shudder in fear while the system showed her that she gained a new level in Monster Patissier. A moment later, she arrived at Alison's temple and told her god, Isengrim the great white deer who roams the summer woods, bringer of spring, god of the hunt, and lord of the beasts, that she offers him that humble gift and asks him for his blessing. Isengrim called her his favorite priestess and told her that her cakes taste delicious and she has done well painting the natural equilibrium in Murmurin, so she should keep it up. She thanked her lord and asked him if she can ask for his guidance. Isengrim replied of course and asked her if it was about that boy Victor whose name she keeps repeating in her prayers. She replied yes and told him that she wants to breed with him. But they are getting nowhere. Isengrim asked her if she has offered to lay with him during the mating season and she replied that she did. But Victor says he didn't want to ruin their friendship. Isengrim told her to try perfume and the sweeter she smells, the greater her chance of luring Victor into a trap, and if anybody tries to steal her mate, she should eat them because all is forgiven in love's name. She happily thanked Isengrim and he told her good luck. Then Alison told her that they should go because they are almost late for the inauguration, to which she replied that she was coming. Meanwhile, in the village, Malphai welcomes the citizens of Murmurin to the grand opening of the Nethermart, the first in Furcorp magic item shop, open to monsters and mortals alike, making the people happily chatter. Malphai told them that there, they will buy top-of-the-line magical weapons, or if they would rather gamble their money away. Their casino floor has all the entertainment they need, and they can relax in their family-friendly VIP lounge after a shopping spree. The citizens were amazed to hear it, but Miel, the angel, was waiting for Kia to explain everything while Malphai told them that if they cannot pay with coins, they can keep a tab with them for their soul as collateral. Vainqueur told Victor to do the thing, then Victor cut the huge ribbon while telling them that in their majesty's name, he declares the Nethermart open. After that, the citizens immediately ran toward the Nethermart and lined up fast to go inside first while Vainqueur happily shouted that he gets 30% sales on weapons and an axe in every home. He thinks that it was wonderful because his minions equip themselves for war and he gets a cut, so he thinks it was the true essence of a dragon-minion relationship. But Furibin told them that if anybody dares to replace him with another scythe, he'll sue them. Chocolatine walks closer to Victor while telling him that she brought him a cake. Victor thanked her and told her that he'll eat it for lunch, but she happily told him to be sure to beat it into submission before eating it, to which he fearfully replied okay while the cake was moving inside the box. Kia told Malphai that it was true that they need to equip the population for war, but she asked Malphai if they have to let them sell their souls to hell in the process. Malphite replied that following a benchmarking study, their corporate overlords decided that the name Hell is no longer politically correct, and they have now rebranded as Happy Land because marketing expects mortals to assimilate the new branding within years, correlating with an increase in soul revenue. Miel told Malphite that a change of name cannot clean the heathen's lies and dirt, but Malphite, laughing, said sorry to Miel and told her that he could not hear her over the sound of Nethermart's soul stock going up. Chocolatine asked Victor if he was planning something that night. But before she could finish, Vainqueur told Victor that they should go back to his horde because they needed to break his princesses out of their prison. Kia bumped Victor's fist, telling him that she would go check the village defenses in the meantime, and that King Gardamagni should arrive soon with more help. He said sorry to Chocolatine and explained that it was a call of duty, but Chocolatine told him that there was no problem at all and told him to have a nice day. Then Miel asked him if they could talk about their new karma insurance plan. Victor replied, sure, but told her to be quick, making Malphite shocked. Chocolatine asked Malphite who the bird was while Victor and Miel walked away. Malphite replied that it was a live target. Then Chocolatine asked Malphite if he had stuff that could help her get a guy's attention. Malphite replied, maybe, and asked her who was the intended victim, to which she replied, Victor. Malphite told her that the quickest solution would be to kill her rival for Victor's love, but she told him that Charlene was already out, which leaves half the world's people. Malphite turned her face and told her that he meant the paladin. She asked him if he meant Kia and what about her. Malphite asked her back if she didn't see the plan and why she thinks Kia moved into Victor's house, then told her that Kia is a holy demon sent by the angels to tempt Victor away from Happyland and take their market share. Chocolatine seriously told Malphite that it would never happen. But Malphite told her no and explained that together they would start a total push aimed at nudging Victor towards a big change in view, but she told him that she didn't understand it. Then Malphite told her that before he became a manager, he was a punishment coach for the demon pickup scene, and they had hero turning bad down to a system, and he would share that skill with her. Then he asked her what kind of relationship she was looking for but told her that they don't push marriage in Happyland. She replied that she wanted Victor to break into her temple, tie her up with ropes, and say it was time to test his monster rider perk as he grabbed her hair. But Malphite cut her words by asking her if she wanted Victor to tie her down but not tie her down. She excitedly replied that she would like some play, worry, and fun, and Malphite told her that in that case, he suggests starting the charm with signals of being saved, and the goal is to make the target believe they can change her, that she could turn good with a special person's love, aka themselves. Malphite told her to do it by sending mixed messages about the chance of being saved to show herself as a PRT or potential saving target, and she should play hard to get so that Victor believes he has to work for it, and he will fall into the trap. She replied that she didn't know because it sounded very tricky, but Malphite just asked her if she wanted to date Victor or not and gave her the script to follow. He read the words in the book that she steals, but she fights worse bad guys. She was not bad, but she just doesn't follow the rules, and it's her parents' fault if she eats people knowing that it was not her at all. But she asked Malphite if it would work and Malphite replied that it worked all the time. Chocolatine asked him what happens if she doesn't pretend and what if she was nice for real. Malphite asked her if she meant a 2-layer trap and told her that he would not suggest it because only an expert can do that, so she should just follow the guide and everything would be fine. A moment later, Allison told her that she couldn't believe she spent so much money on smells and self-help books, but she told Allison that it was okay because they could always use them to start a fire. Allison asked her if she had found something she liked, but she replied it was good advice, but it was not her, and even if it's hard sometimes, she would rather be herself. Allison poked her cheek while telling her that she was very right and she thought she could set her up with Victor at the VIP place for that night, to which she replied that it would be great while many dragons were flying in the sky. She told Allison to look at the sun, and Allison couldn't believe that they were finally there. Then Chocolatine called out to everyone that the dragons were there. Meanwhile, in the horde, the cupcake that Chocolatine gave to Victor released its legs and shouted a growl, but it was shocked when Vainqueur looked at it and was ready to attack it. Then he used his lesser demonbane to attack it, making it slowly vanish into his fire. He happily told Victor that it worked and he finally cast his first exorcism spell. But Furibon told Victor that it was a shame that the cake attacked them because it looked tasty. Victor was looking at the icing of the cupcake on the ground while telling him that Brandon Mora's buff made him dangerous, but that spell should dispel them and target his Demon Slayer weakness. Then Victor cast his power toward the icing, telling him that his Scythe Lord perk should also make it possible to use his scythe as a magical staff. Then Victor used his death candle, and the icing became undead, making Furibon tell Victor that they'll make a passable necromancer out of him. He told Victor that his guests cannot eat ghosts, so he should learn to summon cows instead. But Victor replied that one spellcasting tier at a time. He told Victor that his guests would prefer singing princesses to stuffed ones, and it irked him that even his spell purge can't break that crystal. Victor told him that Kia told him that Gardamagna's king would soon arrive with elite sorcerers to recover his niece, meet with the self-proclaimed Emperor of Murmurin, and grant him his reward. But he shouted at Victor that he wasn't self-proclaimed because he was Emperor now and forever. But the system showed him that his Emperor-class perks would remain unavailable until he killed Brandon Mora. Suddenly, Red Ranger panically called him while pointing outside, and Pink Ranger told him that half a dozen great-winged, smoke-breathing dragons had arrived. But he just peacefully told them that the early guests were there and ordered the Rangers to prepare the appetizer. Red and Pink obeyed immediately and told him that they would offer their bodies if needed. But Victor panicked, knowing that they shouldn't be arriving until tomorrow. He told Victor that, unlike his kind, dragons are smart enough to come early when a feast is involved, making Victor ask him if he subtly implied humans were mentally challenged when they usually start with 10 int, more than most species. But he just laughed and opened his menu to see his original intelligence score before he gained levels. But the system showed that his intelligence was 8 points. Victor asked him why he was twitching, but he just angrily asked the menu what his correct score was. Victor told him that he wanted to see it, but he was stunned to see the menu still showed 8 but had a grand background. He furiously told it that there was no way it was his score and asked what his true score was again. Then the system showed him that his score is the square root of 64, making him think it was finally a higher number, and told Victor to look at his 2-digit genius. But Victor tried hard not to laugh while wondering if Vainqueur even knew what square roots are. Then they went outside of the horde, and he told Victor that he shall not speak unless addressed by a dragon first, and he will repeat that he was good, smart, and wealthy every time he was mentioned. Victor replied sure and asked him if he could please avoid mentioning classes and the system. But he just asked Victor why wouldn't he brag about rediscovering the dragon-made system, and Victor replied that it was because other dragons gaining classes would be bad for their business and everyone else. But he told Victor that being the strongest of his kind means nothing if the rest of his kind are too weak to compare, and asked Victor if anyone boasted about being the best manling. But then he replied no to himself and explained that it was because nobody wants to be the best manling. He also told Victor that everyone wants to be the best dragon because dragons are awesome, and besides, without the system, he wouldn't have been able to cure the vile Furibon's lead poisoning curse, making Furibon ask him if he would never live that down, making Victor laugh. A moment later, they saw a lot of dragons coming their way, and Victor told him that he knew that day would come. But he told Victor that, of course, he knew because he told him. Jolie happily told him, happy bragging day, and he told Jolie that he had grown so big. Then he told Genie Alisime that it was good to see him too, and Genie Alisime asked him how he could miss his dear cousin's bragging day. Then Genie Alisime introduced him to their children as his first cousin, and Genie Alisime introduced to him his children named Kuraju, Sage, and Fort. The children said money, how much, and gold, making him tell Genie Alisime that the children already speak their first words and that they have his eyes. Then he asked who is the last of them. Then he saw Icefang and asked if he is still unable to breed. But Icefang just asked him back why he is still poor and told him that it's Great King Icefang now. He asked Icefang back how he was poor when Icefang's hoard is made of silver. But Icefang told him that wealth knows no limits, and he should pray to the Elder Worm that his hoard is worth bragging about because he will count every coin. And he proudly told Icefang that he will count till the end of time. Then Icefang told him that his messengers told them of the Gold Slayer Furibon and his insane scheme to turn the world's wealth to lead, then asked him where Furibon is. He proudly replied that he defeated Furibon, and his chief of staff Victor sealed Furibon's twisted soul. Then he ordered Victor to show it to them. Victor bent down and showed his scythe where Furibon's soul was living. Genie Alisime told Victor that he did Dragonkind a great service by keeping that depraved monster sealed, to which he hesitantly thanked Genie Alisime. But Furibon told him that he hated them all so much. Jolie asked him if his chief of staff could speak dragon too and told him that it was brag-worthy. He proudly replied that when he found Victor, he was a homeless vagrant. But he taught him well, and Victor told Jolie that it was because his majesty is good, smart, and wealthy, but not necessarily in that order. Icefang told them that it was nothing to brag about because the dragon language is so pure and simple that even lesser species can learn it. Genie Alisime asked Icefang if he was implying that the noble dragon's speech is on the same level as the manling's primitive language. But then he told them to look at his beautiful castle that he claimed from the lick and pointed to the lava and towers. Jolie told him that it's beautiful and it was brag-worthy, but Icefang asked him if it could fly. Still, he bragged to them that he has hundreds of minions, and for those he does not eat, he raises as undead. Jolie asked him if he still eats minion meat, and Victor asked him if minion lives matter. He replied that his niece Jolie is cattle-tarian, so she only eats non-speaking animals and elves. Jolie told them that manlings and other sentient beings have souls like them, so eating them and abducting their princesses is morally wrong. Then Victor told Jolie that he applauded her stand on not eating his kind and asked why not extend that mercy to elves. But Jolie told Victor that elves are not people because they are elves, and they eat grass like cows and make the best princesses. Hearing it, Vainqueur asked Jolie if she had released the one he caught for her first bragging day back into the wild, and Jolie proudly replied that she did. Icefang told Jolie that she did well because princesses are endangered in the north due to wanton dragon overhunting. Genie Elisheim told Icefang that Blightswamp has been trying to find a way to preserve them by raising them in captivity. But Icefang told Genie Elisheim that princesses only happen in the wild, then asked where the sport is in raising princesses at home, and the hunt is half the fun. He realized that he was losing the spotlight and told them that tomorrow shall be his true bragging day, but since they arrived early, he shall reward them with a sneak peek of his magnificent hoard. Genie Elisheim and Icefang looked at him in shock and, laughing, followed him inside the hoard while Icefang teasingly told him that it should be fun and he is sure he can't even bathe in it. But then Victor noticed something in the sky and saw a lot of birds flying in the group. Meanwhile, somewhere, Kia looked at the sky and saw a lot of birds, so he flew toward them to check them while wondering if Brandon Mora died of his wounds or if the dragons scared him away. And she knows that Kevin's reinforcement will arrive first at that rate, but suddenly, her eagle named Twilight stopped flying forward, making him ask if it saw enemies coming. But then she saw it and called the 12 gods in worry because she saw Mora in the plain, telling his men that they know the usual policy when it comes to villages, they should enslave, pillage, and burn it. Odious was in the flying horse to catch up with the plane, together with the flying demons, while Mora told them that this time, they'll skip straight to burning it. Meanwhile, in the horde, Vainqueur proudly told them to witness his shining wealth while pointing to his hoard. Genie Elisheim told him that it was so warm and golden. Then Jolie told him that it was incredible and it was the biggest hoard she had ever seen. But then they noticed something on the side, and Jolie frustratingly asked him if there were 2 elf princesses and a human. She then told him that trapping human princesses isn't ethical. Icefang told him that they were stuffed and they couldn't sing or dance, so it was not dragon-like. But he just asked Icefang if he could feel the overwhelming weight of his wealth and the perfect mix of jewels, gold, and princesses. Icefang asked him how did he accumulate that much gold when his hoard couldn't fill a cave a century ago. He replied that he discovered an ancient secret, a system designed to make dragons even richer. Victor begged the gods to forgive him because he tried to stop Vainqueur and continuously apologized to them. Then Vainqueur told them that it was a great sorcery that allows him to summon treasure by poking humans to death and giving a payment every month. But Icefang told him that it was nonsense and asked him if he was going to say that the moon is not a planet and death is not a birth defect next. The seal of the door moved while he was telling Icefang that the humans worship the ground he walks on when he does not fly, and as the world's greatest adventurer pays him to kill their kind, without them hearing that the door seal broke. Icefang seriously asked him if that plate made him rich while pointing to his V&V necklace, but then he apologized to them for interrupting them. Suddenly, a loud noise appeared, and the gold coins formed into goblins to protect themselves, making Vainqueur ask if the sound was the vault's alarm. Then he told them that a thief was after his hoard. Jolie pointed to somewhere and told them that perhaps it was the cause. Victor was shocked to see that the seal breaks, but he wondered how when Chocolatine and the others had reinforced it. Then someone slowly came out of the door and told Vainqueur that his illegal occupation of King Mora's property ends there. Then it showed itself with 2 large demons while introducing themselves as Mora Hell Corporated, and they shall take back their market share. But then it fearfully stopped when it saw dragons looking at it. Genie Elisheim happily asked if it was a buffet, and Icefang told him that he thought he would be stingy with the food, but he was pleasantly surprised. Then Jolie asked if it was a talking cow and told them that it was gray enough for his cattle-eating ways, so he called dibs on it, making it let go of its weapon on the ground in fear. A moment later, it came back out of hell while panicky shouting. Isabel asked what was happening and why weren't they advancing, but it just crying told them to retreat because it's a trap. But then Jolie ate it before it could say anything else, making Isabel stunned in shock. Icefang told the others to look because there were more behind the door, and Genie Elisheim told them that it was safari time. Then the dragons happily looked at the demons, and Isabel then proceeded to eat them happily. He laughed, praised Victor for his good thinking, and told Victor that it was an excellent idea to bring demon appetizers. Furibin couldn't believe it because he worked decades to weaken the seal. But it ended like that, and Victor fearfully told them that he knew the demons invaded first. But it was a slaughter, so he felt bad for the demons now. Then Victor told him that it was not his doing because the Hellgate seal was sabotaged from their side. which means Mora has agents in Murmurin, and it may be the opening move of a full invasion without them knowing that the demons, Mora, and Odious were near to their castle. On the other hand, Lucy told Odious that everything is going well so far, and she sabotaged the Hell Gate as she was asked, so their allies should be storming the castle already. Odious praised her and told her that she may now leave that town because it would do them no good if the princeling's soldiers mistook her for a local. She told Odious that she would take her leave and watch from the sideline. On the other hand, the demons arrived near the guild desk. Charlene asked what it was and if it was another dragon, but suddenly it threw a grenade toward them, and it exploded. Then the demons kept throwing grenades everywhere to destroy the village. Red shouted to his comrade to defend the city, which they did right away, and attacked the enemy back. Luckily, Charlene was fine and didn't get hit by the explosion. Vainqueur heard the explosion outside and furiously asked what the racket was, and Victor told him that it was Mora's army. He angrily told Mora that he would not ruin his big day, then he jumped and flew quickly into the sky, making Victor thrown by the force he left. He met the rackets in the sky, so they exploded there instead of at his castle. Then he used his fire to make the demons go away. He was waiting for the enemy to arrive, but he was shocked to see many rackets aiming at his castle. He quickly flew toward the rackets to burn and smash them down. But Victor was stunned in shock to see that they were falling down to the castle. Luckily, a barrier protected them. Jules told Victor that he managed to restart the magical shield, so the castle should be safe. But Furibin said that it was just for now because the worm got past it once, and Mora could do the same. Victor asked how many enemies they were facing. Then Kia arrived and told him that Mora brought the entire Ishvanian army, so at least 50,000 troops. Victor couldn't believe that Mora used all his army to destroy a village with fewer than 500 people. But Vainqueur told them that the moth was trying to steal his hard-won empire and ruin his bragging day. Kia also told them that Mora brought the Iron Eagle and she tried to rush as fast as she could to warn them, but the scouts had already reached Murmurin. Jules told them that they have to stop them at the village, and if they climb the volcano, their mages will disable the barrier, making Vainqueur sweat with worry. A moment later, they arrived at the village and waited for the Iron Eagle and the other enemies. He asked Victor if he would gain a crest once he killed that moth, but Victor replied that if not, he didn't know what it would take. So he told Victor that he would deal with Mora and his silly metal bird personally and ordered Victor to lead the minion charge because he would defeat the moth's soldiers before his guests arrive, defend his village, and protect his horde with his life. To which Victor replied that he would try, but he told Victor that he would not try because he would succeed and asked Victor if he remembered that he entered his service when he tried to steal from his horde. Victor replied that he would never forget, so he told Victor that he must understand how much he trusted his horde's safety to him, and he knew he would succeed because he was his prized chief of staff, the best minion he ever had, and that it was his big day, so he could not fail. Victor confidently agreed with him and told him that he would win it. Then he told Victor that so would he and ordered Kia to follow his chief of staff while he cleared the skies. Kia was shocked to hear it and asked him if he was going after Mora alone because it was suicide. But he just left while telling her that it was for those who dared to stand in his way. He told Victor to go forth because it was their moment in the spotlight, and none would take it away from them. Then he shouted to the enemy to come and face their doom, then called Mora a moth and ordered him to show himself. Mora appeared and told him that he had slighted him long enough, but that day he would die. But he just launched forward to fight Mora while reminding him that he was the great calamity of that age, and that day he would show it again. Then he burned the flying demons first and told them to get out of his way. Mora activated his Phenomuleta power, then the system showed him that his plan was successful so that the enemy's perk could not affect him. But he just told Mora not to use more tricks and used his huge fireball to attack Mora. But Mora avoided it while telling Peons to bring him down. The demons used their Winter's Grasp, Ice Storm, and Thunderbolt power to attack them together. The powers attacked him and made a loud explosion, but he just came out of the thick smoke and used his Victory Fist skill to attack back the 3 demons that attacked him. The demons rolled into the air and were about to fall down, then Mora ordered his people to shoot him down. Then the Iron Eagle let out a lot of rockets to attack him. But he simply avoided them all and told Mora that he would bring down that metal bird of his and he would fry it for dinner. On the other hand, a lot of demons and an army of Moras arrived at the village. Then the demons growled happily while looking at the destroyed village. Then one of the demons noticed something moving on the side, so it opened it and saw Charlene hiding from it. The demon called her a little piggy, making her shake in fear, then it ordered her to squeal and was about to hit her when a huge wolf appeared behind it and slashed the demon into 3 pieces. The wolf asked her if she was alright, but she just asked the wolf if she was Kwasan. He apologized to her for his look but told her that they needed to get out of there. She told Kwasan that the whole place was surrounded, but thankfully everyone was armed. Pink Ranger used her instrument to make a sound to boost their power while Junior Vainqueur and the Rangers were busy fighting with the huge demon. On the other side, Manhwa and the other demons' businessmen used their power to attack the flying demons and killed them using sharp ice. Pink told them that the big day had come, making them more energetic. Rollo hit one of the demons from behind, making it dizzy and confused. But suddenly, it changed to the sheep, making Chocolatine excitedly ask Rollo if farmers could do that, and Rollo replied yes, at level 51. Then Rollo looked at the other demons, making them shake in fear, and he told them that they would all become his sheep. Victor laughingly told Rollo that it was sheep, not sheeps. Then he slashed the demons' heads while riding his huge dog with other people. Then he apologized to them because he was late, but Chocolatine was happy to see him. Furibin saw the three demons' souls and asked if it was his roommate because he finally had someone to talk to. But he told Furibin with a pout that he was always there to talk to, but Furibin explained that he meant someone worth talking to without him noticing the demon above him. When it was close, one of the Rangers told him that there was a demon behind him. Luckily, Severus stabbed the demon in time and pinned it down on the ground. He asked Severus why he hadn't run away, and Severus replied that he couldn't because they were coming from all directions. Suddenly, Allison told them that they were running away. Kia explained that they had pushed back the scouts, but more would come. Victor asked the Rangers what the situation was, and Red replied that most of them were alive, but there were too many of them. Allison worriedly told them that they had to leave. Kia told her that it was too late for it because they had cut off the northern road, and they were surrounded. Allison told Kia that they should try to break the ring by focusing their strength, but Allison told her that if they escape, they'll catch up to them in no time with their horsemen, so they should try to hold out until the help from Gardemagny gets here. But then Victor says the early guests, then he told everyone that he knows what to do and that they can't hope to get away, but they can hold out until Vainqueur wins. One of them asks if the king has gone to battle, and he said that Vainqueur has to lead them to win, and Vainqueur, their king, is fighting for the big pile of gold as they talk, which is his gold, but also them. Then he asks them if they will run away, tails between their legs from people so scared of them that they need to bring 100 times their numbers to face them, and told them that he says no because they should remember how they won the war of the pile of horde, and they beat them once, and they will do it again for they are V&V, for they are the pile of horde making the people cheer and feel strong because of his talk, and the system showed him that the help for little ones is turned on, so all little ones' strength goes up by 1 step plus 5. Then he told Jules to bring back all the dead bodies as undead, Allison to call up flowers as a wall, and Malphai and Meal to shoot down any flying things, to which they all said yes and did. Then he tells Chocolatine and the magic users to make everyone strong and heal them, and Quasan to make the elves pay for every bit of land, to which they both said yes. Then he tells the Rangers to come to him and told them that he feels they are ready to get better jobs. Then he turned pink and black Rangers into Dracobolds, then turned blue and yellow Rangers into Cobloods. Then the Rangers told him that they'll lead the fight and they will keep everyone safe because they are big and sorted by color. Kia told him that they need to face Odious because she is a farmer, so they can't look past her. Then he told Rollo, Junior Vainqueur, and Severus to come with them because it was time they pulled that fairy wing. But then, the system told him that for showing his bravery leading a bunch of little ones in his dragon master's name, his monster helper job has been made into Monster Knight Red Dragon, and his help for little ones and small promotion job gifts have been made better, so he will be more like his dragon self. He thinks it was nice, but all at once, wings and tail showed up on his back, making him shocked. He looked back to see it while Furibin was trying not to laugh, but then Furibin can't stop and laughs loud. He told Furibin to be quiet in an angry way. But Severus, laughing, asked him if he was okay, and Kia asked him if she can touch his tail while laughing too, to which he said no in a mad way. But then, Odious asked him if he will make an exception for her because once she has killed all his friends, his new scales will make good gloves. Then a lot of demons and an army showed up in front of them with Odious. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 6 in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.